Finally had enough of Emma Watson, who is, super woke and, one of the useful idiots also on things like Gaza. And so, which tells you something that her views on Gaza were just as crazy, I think, as her views on, on the women thing.
Bill Maher is taking aim at Harry Potter's Emma Watson, calling her out for dismissing J.K. Rowling and promoting woke agendas. And if you know Maher, you know he doesn't hold back when celebrities wander into that territory. His commentary was biting, quick-witted, and full of side-splitting one-liners. Believe me, this roast of Emma Watson is not something you'll want to skip. So get ready and let's jump right in.
She finally had enough of Emma Watson, who is, super woke and, one of the useful idiots also on things like Gaza. And so, which tells you something that her views on Gaza were just as crazy, I think, as her views on, on the women thing. And, J.K. Rowling was just unmerciful. She was like, well, this is not an issue for you because when you go into a public bathroom, you have a bodyguard who stands outside the door, And she talked about how, when I was your age, I didn't have all this privilege that you're always so hateful. I was home working on the book that made you a star. It was, she just wasn't having it anymore.
Yeah, you do get to a point where, and I think on a lot of issues, I'm at that point where you're just sick of the BS on both sides.
For anyone who missed J.K. Rowling's fiery response to Emma Watson, Bill Maher delivered a recap you didn't know you needed. After years of Watson's pointed critiques, Rowling finally struck back with a sharp, fearless comeback that kept the internet buzzing for days. Maher didn't just summarize the clash, he elevated it, turning the exchange into a masterclass of comedic critique with a mix of blunt honesty, biting sarcasm, and perfectly timed disbelief. He has a knack for dissecting celebrity drama, especially the woke-infused kind, with humor and brutal clarity, making every moment of this pure entertainment.
So tripped up by their own
orthodox
ideology that they think that makes them a better person, to be so counterintuitive about all these issues like this, that this makes them the good people, that they're way out ahead on this issue, and you're not, and it's not what people want, and it goes against human nature, and it's not helping. You want to champion women, and you didn't. You did the opposite.
I know, because there's the hierarchy.
You made them uncomfortable,
no,
and
100%,
unnecessarily.
100%. Look,
in many ways.
Bill Maher didn't hold back in his critique of Emma Watson, pointing out that while she sees herself as a moral crusader fighting for a good cause, the reality is far more complex. According to Maher, the causes she champions, though well-intentioned, often end up causing more harm than good, especially for women. He delivered this insight with his trademark mix of sharp wit and blunt honesty, exposing the unintended consequences of such progressive stances. What sets Maher apart is his ability to blend humor with piercing analysis, making viewers both think and laugh. By the end, it's clear he isn't just calling out Watson, he's challenging the broader ideology she represents and the tangible effects it can have in the real world.
I respect transgender people. I do not want to treat them like the others. I want them to have rights. I want them to be treated with dignity and respect.
Exactly.
At the same time, I also know what it's like to be a woman living in a state where we've decided self-ID makes the most sense. Okay, well, self-ID doesn't make the most sense.
No.
Because obviously, as you and I both know, there are all sorts of predators out there who are going to take advantage of that situation, and that's already happened, right? So there was that big We Spa story, and it turned out that the so-called transgender woman who was allowed into the women's locker room at a Korean spa in downtown LA was not actually a transgender person, was a person who had a long record of, sexual exploitation and assault or whatever.
This is exactly the point many have been making for years. Transgender rights absolutely deserve respect and protection, but there also needs to be a balance to ensure fairness and safety in certain spaces. This isn't about denying anyone their rights. It's about safeguarding the integrity of women's sports and maintaining spaces intended for women as fair and secure. Finding this balance is a nuanced but essential conversation that society cannot afford to overlook.
I felt so bad because I bought the cover story when it was first reported, but I was wrong to buy it. I should have asked more questions. And that poor woman, she happened to be a Black woman who's complaining at the front desk of WeSpa, she was dragged through the mud when in reality, she witnessed this person fondling themselves in the women's locker room. Now, this person is not transgender. This is not an indictment of transgender people. It's an indictment of a policy that was not thought through. And as a result, there are women who are going to suffer. And as a result, there are transgender people who are going to suffer because people are going to make the mistake of thinking, oh, well, that guy was transgender and this is how they behave. No, this is not how they behave. We need to be smarter about these policies.
Backing an ideology without fully considering its real-world effects can result in unintended consequences, no matter how noble the intentions. Public figures like Watson and Kasparian carry significant influence, and with that influence comes a responsibility to understand and address the complexities of the causes they promote.
Well, good for you for saying that. I say it all the time. It's no shame to say, "Oh, I believe the cover story."
Yeah, I do.
Because the cover story just means that everybody has their own narrative. Nobody pursues the truth on either side. You have to work really hard.
Yes.
But since it's my job, I do, to get the full story. Nobody ever prints if you read the New York Times and the New York Post, it's like these two, it's just funny to do it because it's like, oh, I see what you left out.
This is precisely the problem with American news media today. The over-politicization of nearly everything. The moment a story breaks, major outlets rush to interpret it through the lens of their favorite political party, often twisting or omitting key details that don't fit their narrative. Instead of reporting facts objectively, they focus on framing stories to appeal to audience biases. The result is a fragmented picture where the truth is hard to discern, leaving viewers to piece together partial information from conflicting sources. This hyper-partisan approach doesn't just misinform, it erodes trust in journalism and turns every news item into a political battleground. Even straightforward events become opportunities to score points rather than to inform, making it increasingly difficult to grasp the facts and undermining the media's role as a neutral source of information.
J.K. Rowling used to be a villain to the right because she wrote books about witchcraft. Now she's a villain to the left because she has the crazy belief that there's more to being a woman than pronouns and lipstick. So that was the point of the evening. How do we take a stand against cancel culture? And I suggested, since we were mostly all in show business, that we start an award show to honor the brave people who have fought back.
J.K. Rowling is a hero in her own right. In an era dominated by cancel culture, where celebrities, politicians, comedians, and athletes often bend the knee and apologize for past comments or opinions, Rowling stood her ground. She refused to let public pressure dictate her beliefs, speaking her truth despite the very real threats of backlash and cancellation. What makes her stance even more remarkable is that she faced betrayal from people she once supported and helped rise to fame, Emma Watson being a notable example. Rather than retreating or retracting her statements, Rowling endured the storm with resilience and conviction, displaying a rare form of courage in today's hypersensitive cultural climate. Her unwavering commitment, regardless of personal or professional cost, marks her as a figure of integrity, and for that alone, she deserves recognition and accolades.
This month, students there demanded trigger warnings before all the lectures in case any of the adult subjects you specifically went to college to learn about came up. And Martha said, yeah, no, we're not doing that. She didn't cave in or hire a new dean of sensitivity. She just said, no, college is for introducing you to new ideas, not for kissing your ass and making you feel wonderful and always right.
J.K. Rowling's defiant stance against cancel culture and woke ideology quickly struck a chord with many, inspiring others to resist the growing pressure to conform. One notable example is Martha Pollack, president of Cornell University, who refused to yield to demands from woke activists calling for trigger warnings before any discussion of adult or controversial subjects. Pollack's reasoning was clear and principled. Students at Cornell are over 18, legally adults, and fully capable of engaging with challenging topics without special warning. She argued that shielding students from difficult ideas undermines their intellectual growth and the core purpose of higher education. By taking this stand, Pollack not only defended academic freedom, but also sent a broader message that the overreach of woke culture need not dictate public discourse. Her position mirrored Rowling's courage, demonstrating that principled resistance is possible even in today's highly charged cultural climate.
Just amazed at how this generation can simultaneously be too sensitive for anything distasteful and somehow also so into eating ass. So Cornell, I present you with these balls. I sure could have used them when I was there.
The fundamental problem with woke culture lies in its glaring double standards. On the surface, its proponents present themselves as morally righteous, opposing certain behaviors, ideologies, or societal norms. Yet a closer look often reveals that their actions contradict the very principles they champion. They loudly denounce wrongdoing, while sometimes engaging in behavior arguably worse than what they condemn. This hypocrisy undermines their credibility and exposes a gap between rhetoric and reality. Woke culture thrives on moral posturing, frequently ignoring its own inconsistencies. People within the movement may condemn certain actions or beliefs while simultaneously participating in or excusing behaviors that are far more harmful or ethically questionable. The result is a confusing landscape where virtue signaling overshadows genuine moral integrity, leaving observers frustrated and skeptical of the movement's true intentions.
Dozens of Netflix employees walked out over Dave Chappelle's reckless decision to perform comedy on his comedy special. CEO Ted Sarandos could have pulled the special and replaced it with more episodes of Who Wants to Watch Koreans Get Killed? But instead, he reminded his Netflix employees that comedy exists to push boundaries and told them if you'd find it hard to support our content breadth, Netflix may not be the best place for you.
In the end, the issues highlighted by figures like J.K. Rowling and others who resist the overreach of woke culture reveal a deeper truth. Society stands at a crossroads between genuine moral accountability and performative virtue. Upholding principles, even when unpopular, demands courage, something Rowling demonstrated by refusing to yield under pressure, and something educators like Martha Pollack showed by defending academic freedom. At the same time, the inconsistencies and double standards of woke culture serve as a cautionary tale, reminding us that not all outrage is rooted in justice. It's easy to condemn, but far harder to act with true consistency and integrity. Recognizing these patterns isn't about denying anyone's rights. It's about ensuring that advocacy remains fair, reasonable, and grounded in reality. By learning from these lessons, society can aim for a culture that values honesty, accountability, and principled courage over hypocrisy, performative outrage, and shallow moral posturing. That brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.